The sun had not yet fully arrived. It leaned against the eastern hills like a tired traveler, bleeding orange through the low mist that clung to the river. The water at the bend moved slowly, too slowly for its width, as though it could not decide where to go. Sedge grass bent in clusters along both banks, and a crane stood motionless in the shallows, watching something invisible beneath the surface. The air smelled of wet stone and cedar, and something green that had no name yet. There is a word, Nenashigusa, literally rootless grass, a plant with no anchor, something that drifts because it has no choice. The kind of thing a person might step over without noticing, unless they happen to look down at exactly the right moment. Kaito crouched at the river's edge, washing his face. His yukata was borrowed, slightly too large, the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His reflection in the still water beside a mossy rock looked younger than he expected, and he stared at it a moment too long. "You still have your name," he murmured to that reflection. That's something." He did not sound convinced. He watched the water until the crane took flight, one long, unhurried wing beat, and then he stood. The inn sat back from the river road, old beyond anyone currently living, its roof curving up at the eaves like hands raised in old greeting. Morning smoke rose straight from the kitchen chimney, for there was no wind yet. Around the back, where the hot spring steamed in a carved cedar tub, Ojii-san was sweeping. Not the step, not the walkway, but the dirt itself, in slow, careful arcs, as if the ground beneath were something worth honoring. Kaito approached, and the old man did not look up. "You were down at the river again," Ojii-san observed. "How did you—" "Your feet are wet and you smell like the eastern bend," he paused. "The mist collects differently there. Has since before I was born." The broom went on making its sound, like breathing. "Ojii-san," Kaito said, "the forged document, if someone were to challenge it, they would need your father's actual seal, which is in the Imperial capital, which is 60 days' travel." He leaned on the broom. "Your stepmother chose her timing well." Kaito absorbed this. His jaw tightened and released, and his hands closed briefly at his sides, not fists, just gathering. "So I stay." "That is generally what people do," the old man said, dry but not unkind, "when they have nowhere else to go." Silence followed, until a fire popped somewhere inside the inn. "There is tea," Ojii-san added. The kitchen was low-ceilinged and warm, iron hooks hanging from the beams, dried herbs, some familiar, some not, hung in loose bundles. Morning light fell through a single high window in one long diagonal stripe. Saya was already at the table, eating rice with the focused efficiency of someone who had gone without it before. She did not look up when Kaito entered. He sat across from her, and a bowl appeared as if from nowhere, Ojii-san's doing from the next room. Kaito wrapped both hands around its rising steam. He had met her only yesterday, and yesterday felt like a different lifetime. "You're still here," he said. "Nowhere better to be." She did not look up. "That's honest." "I don't have energy for anything else." She finished her bowl and set it down with precision. "You were talking to the river this morning." "I was talking to myself." "Same thing, out here." For the first time, something flickered across her face. Not a smile, not quite. More like a door briefly opened, then closed. The meadow stretched between the river road and the first line of old pines, knee-high grass, wild and thick. At its center stood a collapsed structure. Not a building exactly, more like the memory of one. Rotted timber, a foundation stone with kanji too weathered to read, wildflowers claiming the corners, bees moving through it all, unhurried and sovereign. Kaito walked through it slowly, parting the grass with his hands. Saya followed at a distance, arms crossed. "This is it," he said. "This is asterisk what?" "Asterisk. The plot, the one Ojii-san mentioned. He said the land is unclaimed. Technically, I could file a use right with the Borderlands registry. It's not the same as ownership, but you want to asterisk, build asterisk something. I have to do something. I can't just—" He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "I have no money, no trade, no labor. I can't even clear this alone. But if I do nothing—" He looked at the collapsed timber, his expression quieter than hope, something more like stubbornness wearing patience's clothes. "What would you build?" Saya asked, studying him. "I don't know yet. Something people need." She watched the bees a moment. "My clan had a bathhouse. Before, it was the first thing we built when we settled somewhere new." Her voice softened. "My grandmother said you can tell what a people value by what they build first." Then she seemed surprised she had said it at all, and looked away. By midday came proper summer heat pressing down from a white sky. The road into the small settlement, 7 buildings, a well, a merchant stall, shimmered at its edges, while a dog slept in the precise center of the road, daring anyone to ask it to move. Kenji was there, as he somehow always was, his enormous colorful pack jingling, currently attempting to convince a farm woman that a bolt of blue-dyed hemp was practically silk if you squint. "Kaito-kun!" He abandoned the farm woman at once, to her evident relief. "I heard you were still in the area. I thought Kenji. Go see if the exile is dead yet." "You are not dead. Excellent news." "Thank you for your concern," Kaito said dryly. "I bring information, which is better than concern and cheaper than medicine." He dropped his voice and drew Kaito aside. "There are 3 displaced families 2 days east. Hill people, their valley flooded last season, still haven't resettled. Good workers. Proud, which means difficult, but proud people work hard." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I like being present when history happens," Kenji said, grinning. "Also because I want a permanent stall if you ever build a market. Cheap rent, I am not proud." By late afternoon, Kaito was attempting to clear the timber alone, and it was going badly. He had managed to move 2 rotted beams. His hands bled from splinters in wood that looked soft but was not, and sweat soaked through the back of his yukata. The meadow seemed larger than it had that morning, the pines further away. He lifted a 3rd beam. His grip slipped. The beam dropped onto his left foot. He went down hard on one knee, teeth clenched, making no sound, his palms pressing flat against the earth. The bees continued. There is a difference between knowing something will be hard and meeting that hardness for the first time, between the idea of building and the actual weight of a single rotted beam, between a plan and a bleeding hand. Kaito stayed down. 1 breath, 2. He looked at his palms, red and gritty with soil. His father's voice surfaced from somewhere in memory. Asterisk. "The ground doesn't care who your father is, Kaito. It only cares what you do with it." His eyes closed, then opened. Saya stepped out of the tree line. She had been watching and said nothing of how long. She picked up the other end of the beam and lifted. "Well, other end." He stood and took the weight. Together, slow and wordless, they moved the beam to the edge of the clearing and set it down. "Thank you," he said quietly. "We'll need Sora, the blacksmith's apprentice." She did not look at him. "He's stronger than he looks and he's bored. Bored 16-year-olds are dangerous if you don't give them something to break." "And the families Kenji mentioned. Maybe." She turned to the ruined foundation stone. "What did your grandmother value first?" "I don't know. She died before." "Then you get to decide. What do you build first?" Kaito looked at the foundation stone, at the steaming cedar tub back at the inn, at his own bleeding hands. He thought of Saya's words from that morning, of displaced families, of people who had lost their warmth. "A bathhouse," he said slowly. Saya was quiet, then very softly, almost to herself. "My grandmother would have agreed." She walked back toward the tree line, and he watched her go before crouching to trace the worn kanji with one finger carefully, as if asking a question. At dusk, the meadow had gone gold, and in the long light, the ruined timber no longer looked like ruin. It looked like material, like something waiting to be remade. A single firefly appeared at the meadow's edge, then another, then slowly many. Nenashigusa, rootless grass. The thing about rootless grass is this. It isn't dead. It is still alive, still green. It is simply looking for its ground. And ground, unlike everything else, does not ask who you were before you arrived. It only asks what you will become. Kaito stood at the center, fireflies drifting around him, his hands still marked with soil and a little blood, hanging open at his sides. He was looking north, toward the mountains, the carved road, whatever waited beyond. The mountains offered nothing back. They were simply there, patient and old and present, and his expression was unreadable. He did not yet know what watched from the other side of those mountains, nor what was coming toward him from the east, nor what or who he was about to become. He knew only what he had decided that day, in a meadow full of bees, holding up one end of a rotted beam, and tonight, that had to be enough. The fireflies drifted, the mountains stood, and the dark came down. Next time, 3 families would arrive with everything they owned on their backs. Sora would swing a hammer for the first time in anger, not craft, and from the northern road, something would come down that should not have come at all.